A lot of my friends at the time were also going into investment banking and things like that. And, these professional careers, becoming lawyers and like highly successful people. And I think I had an assumption that these skills that we get from coaching only happen in the coaching profession. They don't. These skills that we learn as coaches, they're happening in all these other fields as well, parallel to us, things that we don't necessarily associate with. However, not all of them, and not all of them consciously. And so when I'm working with these people and I'm wondering, work, in this space, it's fantastic to feel like humanity is like we're getting the skill sets of kindness, of empathy. There are, in my experience in the business world, the business relationships that make it the most are the most that are open communication, where there's an understanding of just where people are at in a heart level as well as a mind level. A lot of these business retreats and ideas that come from coaching are from the executive world, from these retreats, what people have learned about strengths and personality, and helping empower people and making people feel like they're aligned with a common mission. All of these amazing ideas and really heart-centered approach comes from the executive world. This, to me, is what coaching does. Is it defines those things, gives you handles so you can grab them when you need them, and then also a skill set and a tool set to help other people in those fields, other people in life. Also, get that extra 20%, get that extra 30% that coaching has, accumulated. And then when you're working with a coach, you get access to that. That's what I feel like is happening right now, in the soup of the development of coaching. What I've learned as a coach perspective, working with people, mostly students, when I was 23, I was, that's when I started my coach training. And I thought, this is changing the world. This is changing my life, because I am helping explore an inner world that gives me specific tools to work on myself, and an awareness, a practical awareness of what to do with that, and designed with a partner who's not judging me, who's not making me feel shame, who's making me feel empowered, making me feel like, yeah, I've got this. I can launch my own private practice. I can eventually launch an organization. We can launch a movement together. Like, we can change education. Let's really do it. Let's really bring coaching into this education space. I was in that soup all from 23 to 27. That was a period of intense exploration for me in this process. And I thought, this is what I need to bring to young people. Then 27, 28, 29, I started working with executives. Someone in a leadership program invited me to work with a handful of executives, and then had other opportunities to work with people in the executive space, give workshops, presentations, day-long retreats and things like that. What I quickly realized is that the working world, that there are pockets of people who are like Jedi masters of emotion and thought, and I respect them a lot. There are other pockets that aren't, and the skill sets seem to me remarkably low and baffling to some degree. So there's a range, right? There's a big range there. And I learned that when I'm working with people that I sometimes feel like bafflingly low, it's not that they're choosing that. It's that, they can, some do, but it's not as much as they're choosing that, as that they just don't have another pathway available to them. They don't know, oh, this is what it's like. That's a journey from bafflingly low skill sets to Jedi master skill sets. And when people start to take that journey, that's one of courage. That's one of that's personal growth, self-growth, all of that. And it's exciting. It's so exciting. And as a coach, I've learned not to judge how long that process is going to take, or how arduous that process is going to be. That process might happen so fast. It might just go from one insight, cover so much ground. So I've learned to trust the coaching process, that insight is in the space, both with executive adult clients and also with students. And to me, as a human being, there's no more, like when I get to my purpose on this, there's no more, how do I say this? Interesting journey to journey with someone than to journey along this growth path, and to see it not you. And as a coach, you don't have to be an expert in it. You just have to be intensely curious about it. And so for my life's purpose, it completely aligns. I love connoisseurship. I love curiosity. I love exploring and seeing what is the best experience, or what is the best, the most meaningful, the thing that's going to make the biggest difference. What is that? It's going along this growth journey. That's what I do. That's what I teach people to do. That's what I was born to do. So here we are, right? Here we are. And as this growth journey happens, when you're working with the Jedi masters of the world, and you quickly realize as a coach, like, wow, this person is like, they have it together. Like, I, as a coach, I'm learning from them. Like, I just sit in awe and just, wow, I'm doing my best. And I've learned as a coach, I can keep that in. I don't need to tell them like that that I'm not worthy, or, whatever feelings come up in myself. I don't need to say that. But what I've learned is I still stay in curiosity. Like, that's my job. I'm a professional, and my job is to stay curious. So I stay curious. And from there, what I've learned is people, everyone knows what they most need. Like, even you sitting there right now, listening, watching this, what you most need. Maybe it's a hug. Maybe it's a nap. Maybe it's a realization that you have done the most amazing thing that you needed to do already. And you can sit and just breathe that in for 30 seconds. Yeah. That journey, that transformation, that shift of energy from one place to another, buckle up, let's go for that ride. And when you start become mindful of that inner world, that space within us, that to me is one of the best experiences of humanity. And when people get into that space, that's what I'm here for. And so all of that happened, right? All of this, my own growth as a human being, the exploring the executive world where a lot of this comes from, exploring then, applying it to academics. What I've learned about people is we are naturally resilient. That the skill set of coaching is found, it's a collection of some of the best concepts that come from all these different fields. And what a privilege, what an honor to be in this space. So if we have, my perspective on this is, if with this knowledge gathering, there's a responsibility to share, to be of service. And it feels amazing. It feels amazing. And the executive world now is looking to the wellness world, what's happening in health and wellness, and ideas, and even expectations and conversation around mental health and wellness, and what we're doing, with kindness and empathy and exercise and sleep, and all the importance of nutrition and food choice, and the mental world, and emotional world. All of these things are cutting edge, and I think are really going to change the way that we approach work, that we approach life, and really work towards a work-life integration, not a balance, but how can you do meaningful work, make a living, and also live meaningfully, mindfully, healthily. That's what we're doing now. So these worlds are I think somewhat closer together than we sometimes think, and then you add in positive psychology and what's happening in academia and all of the things that we're studying and are able to know about physiology and psychology, and just the advancements that are being made in science. And wow, what an amazing time to be alive. So that's my take on that one. All right. Let's go to question number 2. What are tips for cultivating a healthy mindset? oh goodness. Okay. I think it's interesting to think, what is a healthy mindset? Let's start there. What is a healthy mindset? And I'm asking myself, do I have it myself? I think so, but sometimes I'm very hard on myself, and critical, and I want to be better. Want to be better. And I think for me, the first step in getting to, let's say, a more optimum mindset is to not to be hard on myself with that, but to get beyond thinking, okay, things are good or bad, but thinking more in terms of, okay, useful, not useful. Like, what's the use of skipping a workout, for instance, or what's the use of not doing the thing that that you really need to do? And when that question is asked, immediately your mind has to shift away from the usual pattern and look for that little opening. And that interruption of thought is so valuable, because that little habitual thought pattern carries an emotional set with it as well. And when that thought pattern gets interrupted, then that emotional pattern comes up and goes, okay, wow, well, I usually feel this and this and this and this way about this thing. So now what do I feel? Like, I have to, there's this element of, I need to figure this out completely differently. And it's just that little tiny, we're talking 2 seconds of interruption, but if you're working with a coach through that, you might get a 2-minute interruption of that. And not only that, but someone breaking the loop of thought with one curious question, they might ask another curious question to break it even more. So now you're on a path of really breaking, like, question after question after question. You can spend maybe 5 to 10 minutes considering a completely new thought and emotional skill set, right? That's one of the values of coaching, a demonstration of what, of how and why it works. And so we do that. I try to do that internally, in my own head often, where I ask myself, okay, what's the usefulness of this experience, not usefulness of this experience? And then the next question I go with is, what do I need to do to fulfill the mission of bringing life coaching into education primarily, and then also in the executive wellness fields along with it? is what do I need to, that mission clarifying question helps a lot. And then from there, it's okay, what's on the list? Like who do I need to connect with? What needs to happen? But there's this element of momentum that comes up when you can at least get started on something that's hard. That's kind of the end, the end feedback, where I feel like I feel like I've really worked on getting into a habit of, okay, so if I just start this hard thing, that's it. Just start the hard thing. Start it. And I keep saying, when I do that, then there's an element of, oh man, like it's like you just have done it. You've won the day. Won the day. And gathering 1 days like that start to become just your gold. Just experience an hour of doing the very most important thing in your life. Like, what it is. Just set the timer for an hour and say go. If whatever it takes to get to there, that it's just getting to that press the go button. That's unique to everyone. And when you find your cues and you find your starting points, then you know where the end point is, you can get there. But it's unique to everyone. For me, like I said, that's the journey. Is the starting point to me is useful, not useful. That breaks it just enough, and then you're off and running. And I do recommend working with a coach. Find it. Find your interrupter pattern. Maybe we'll make that into an exercise. That's how these things get made. It's just, let's go down this path, and then you find a new path that worked for someone. And then you see, okay, what were the key points? What was the curiosities that got from here to there? What worked well, what didn't, and then you extrapolate and experiment, see how it applies to your own life, and then that's how they get made. All right. Other tips for cultivating a healthy mindset: exercise and protein. You gotta eat food. No crankies based on food choice is important. Exercise and food choice. Okay, hope theory. Question number 3: how do I use hope theory in my coaching practice? Okay, so when I first started looking for, let's say, a unified theory that would tie coaching together or would make coaching make sense, it felt like a structure that I wanted to study what was happening in positive psychology. And that structure was strong. I did it for 6 months. It was a powerful period for me. I'm looking to start one again in this January, start another similar kind of knowledge seeking period of time. And with that, I really thought it would take me a while to find the theory that made sense, but I found hope theory and immediately it made sense. It's hard to look back on it because now I've been in the model, and a model is helpful when it both simplifies and explains at the same time. And that's what hope theory did. And so because of that, I feel like I look at my own life and the lives of my clients. It's hard for me to know, okay, this is just how I look at it, or this is how I look at it with hope theory, informed by hope theory. It's hard to separate those two. So I'm just going to give the way I look at it, and then I'll split out where hope theory fits into it explicitly. The first thing that helped me make sense of coaching was that it was about the pathway to get to the goal, to get where you wanted to go. So hope theory became, there's an end goal in mind, which involves an action and decision point. And that makes sense. Like, at that point, you're thinking, okay, there's endpoints, I have actions and decisions. It's all, behavioral based out, there's no something hidden behind a wall in shadow. There's no internal yet. It's all observable behaviorist, if you could, click it with a stopwatch, write it down, measure it explicitly, kind of stuff. Coaching at its best helps clients get there, understand, let's make it explicit. How can you measure it? What would where does the rubber meet the road? There's a part of coaching that I feel like is very hardcore that way. And that's what really helps the profession provide value for clients. Hope theory has that. Good. And I like how it's split up between both action and decision. Though I like having those things feel like they are similar. Where decisions is that, that is our actions, and actions involve decisions. And so, having grace, giving your, not feeling like, oh, I should get this already, or I should be able to do this, effortlessly for some reason. There's no, no effort involved. That's not the case, or no decisions involved. So I like that. And then taking it a step further, then when you go behind the wall, or go internal, there's a discussion in hope theory, between your character traits, like your being, and your ability to learn or to adapt or to gather or create the pathway that you need to create. There's a learning element involved in your assessment of how well you think you can learn or gather the skills or traits necessary to accomplish what you want to accomplish. And then there's the beingness, going back to the beingness. Then there's the narratives that we have about ourselves, and the limiting beliefs, and the awareness or unawareness of who we are and what we want to accomplish. You have that in the being part. You now have a model of positive psychology that matches a lot of the learn, be, do that I was used to thinking about that lens through which I looked at coaching. You now have a space where those two things line up. So it felt very like instant, like a clarification of the learn, be, do model, even adding a few like nuances to it, and putting it into mental space. Like you can see, okay, there's the column with, the learning and the being, and that's internal. That's a narrative that each of us are running right now, where each of us are running this narrative. And that narrative then shifts into actions and decisions. Where does the rubber meet the road? And these actions and decisions can give clues to the learning and the being. And the learning and the being inform the actions, the decisions. Coaching helps optimize all three. And then that leads to an outcome. That leads to something that you're trying to accomplish. And once that outcome is there, once you start to get one or get feedback, then you can start to ask yourself, how can this feedback be useful in the other two columns? And that's just gathering feedback, helping someone look something that's hard to look at and gather feedback from it is so valuable. Coaching does that beautifully. Especially when you can help clients adopt a growth mindset where they can actively try to seek out the hard feedback. That's amazing. And so I use coaching, or this model, learn, be, do, hope theory, with agency, pathways, decisions, and actions, and outcomes. I use these as a mental emotional map, where, or where it's like a filter through which your client's speaking, and you're just becoming curious, and you're just allowing this map to unfold. You're just allowing all the spaces to fill up in this map. And if there's a space that's not being filled, where I ask myself, I've listened to this person, and I wonder, what are they learning about themselves in here? Like, what's the next horizon for them? What's it like for them to be in this space, and this big thing happened? Like, wow, that's amazing. Like, what narrative shift happened? All of those, like, that's I'm curious. I want to know, and when you're there in that space, it's almost like you as a coach dissolve. You are more an extension of the other person's experience than you are yourself. And I love that space. That's the space that I want to get into. And it's a space that I feel like is really available to all of us. Everyone does this. Everyone has this ability to connect in this way. We feel it. We do it naturally. For periods of time, people do this. Like, you watch it in the world. People who take an extra couple seconds and really connect. Like, some people do this like very, very naturally. Other people, but you can learn to, and other people do it and you can feel it. And coaches, we do it for longer extended periods of time, and you build up a stamina for it, almost an appetite for it, where when I was working with clients in this space, I felt like my client sessions became these little islands of peace among a sea of torrential, downpour, trying to figure out how to navigate, a business through different periods of time, or, a young family trying to make it and, bootstrap this thing, here we go kind of deal. These periods of time where you connect with someone like this are deeply meaningful. And it's why a lot of people get into coaching. They're good at it. They're naturally good at it. And coaching gives you a framework to be even better and be a professional about it. All right, here we are. So that was 30 minutes, I think. Thank you, everyone. That was a new experience, flying solo. Thank you all for, really, it's, I feel like we have some change that needs to be accomplished in this world, and it's going to take a lot of people to accomplish it, and to bring kindness and empathy into these fields, to help people experience coaching and help yourself, like, even grow, professionally, spiritually, in your strengths and empathy and kindness. All of these things, the world and our own lives are enriched, through this work. So thank you for being a part of this community, for being here. And this has been another Coaching to Flourish podcast. I'm your host, John Andrew Williams, and I will see you next week. Bye, everyone.